You're listening to Fucks Given, the one with Duncan Trussell. So, Duncan Trussell on Fucks Given. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. Hi, great to meet you.
Oh, it's
great to meet you.
It's such an honour to have you on our little old podcast. Florence and I have been, let us gush for a moment. Huge fans, especially since seeing The Midnight Gospel, which, was so moving and incredible. And thank you for bringing that out, because it wasn't just like an animated series. It was like a therapy session with each episode that came out, and it was so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really, really incredible. And I reached out to you after seeing you. I went to this conference in Vegas where you did a live show. It was called Meetdelic, and it was all about psychedelic wellness, which was super exciting and quite new to me, actually, because I've never been like someone that takes loads of drugs or anything, and saw your live show there, which was super exciting and amazing.
Thanks.
Like, I think there were so many moments in that where my mind was completely like blown. I was like, this conversation is so great. I need to re-listen to this about 1,000 times.
Thank you.
Some people that are listening might not know who you are. So how would you introduce yourself?
I have a podcast called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast. Yeah. I'm a comedian, and I made a show for Netflix called The Midnight Gospel.
Oh, beautiful piece of work. I'm still in shock that you allowed yourself to come on this podcast. Was there anything that kind of made you go like, yeah, this looks okay? I think we're still so surprised.
Oh, well, y'all just are really interesting and funny, and I just thought it'd be fun to have these conversations. During the pandemic, this for me has been my socializing is podcasting. I think if you're a podcaster, it's one of the luckiest things ever, because so many people are so hyper isolated right now. You don't get the experience that we used to take for granted of just like, sitting down with people and talking, or going out to dinner as much. Or if you are going out to dinner, there's all this like creepy, edgy thing, that's happening where, I don't know, it's just spooky right now. These are spooky times. I don't know what it's like over there.
But
over here, it's it's spooky, and it's awkward, and it's just sort of, wouldn't you say, like in human history, outside of the Black Plague, this is the least sexy time in human history?
Just outside of the Black Plague, that was pretty sexy.
The Black Plague, well, they're wearing those crow masks or whatever. It's fucked up.
Like at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was kind of isolated in their own homes. I guess it's kind of similar now, but at least we can kind of go out and date people if you're single. But I remember I was single right at the beginning, and I felt so like targeted by life, because I was just like, wait, I have to stay inside my house alone for all this time, and I can't have sex. Like I can't. What?
Can't be a human.
And you gotta, that thing when you're dating, you might get that fucked up phone call where someone's like, hey, I need to tell you, you need to go to the doctor. Yeah. I've got chlamydia. Something like that. Now you get that call just from like being around somebody. Like it's the same experience.
My housemate, they have COVID. You should go get yourself a test. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. I didn't even ever put the two and two together. It's exactly
and the
that
stigma as well. The stigma is so similar, actually, I would say that STI stigma is still so much bigger, but it's that weird feeling of like, where did you get it from? And were you not being careful enough? And that's so naughty. And now you're fucked and you have to go and tell everyone.
That's so naughty.
Yeah.
Naughty.
It's very, very similar. But at least, if you get that phone call for somebody, that means you were fucking. So at least you were like having fun. This is like you were at the grocery store.
Yeah.
You passed someone on the street, so you don't even get that sense of like, well, I was taking risks and being crazy. It's just a bummer of a time. I'm happy, but it's just an annoying time.
It's really annoying. It's really disruptive of life.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sex and relationships. I think a lot of people that are in open relationships as well have like suffered as well, because they've been basically just stuck with one partner and haven't really been able to explore other avenues, and I don't know whether that's affected people's relationships in that kind of way.
And that's their relationship style,
sure.
and they need that to have a successful relationship. It's it's kind of fucked a lot of us up, and unsurprisingly as well. But like everyone's fucked. But we should stop talking about COVID. I feel like this is a running theme.
I did want to ask though. I did want to ask like how it was for you and your wife during the pandemic. Like, did it affect your relationship? Because you have spoken about. I was listening to your episode with the lady from By Felipe.
Oh yeah, Alexandra.
Yeah, which was awesome. And you mentioned that you used to have girlfriends with your wife. So how did that kind of affect your relationship?
Well, it's not just the pandemic. It's that right now we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I guess it is it's. It's just like, I think it's similar the way that it's affecting everybody with the addition of kids, and in the sense that, it's just like dating. It's really not that different from dating. You get to know somebody and, it's just the exact same pattern really, except with 2 people. And, but in this case, when you're juggling kids and trying to keep the kids from getting sick or in my job and all this stuff that, all of it just, the time you have, like when you have kids, all the cliches you hear are true. Do y'all have kids yet? Do you have kids?
Not yet.
So all the cliches are true. Everything you hear about it. And so you schedule sex. You're going to start, even though when you hear that, when you're deciding to have kids, you're like, that's not going to happen to us. Oh yes, it is. Yes, it fucking is. You're going to schedule sex, which is truly like maybe the least romantic thing that could possibly happen. And then a lot of the spontaneous romantic stuff, you have to take it up as a kind of practice, and that includes having other partners or dating or any of that stuff. It's so, yes, it affected us like on every level, just the way it's affecting everybody. It's a brutal time for parents, but also we've evolved and we've, really seen each other's shadow sides, and, we love each other, and you get a kind of, we feel very proud in the sense that we were able to get through all the bullshit that has happened to us and so many other people during the last few years.
Was it like the most time you ever spent with each other?
Yes. Yes. And that's hard. It's like, it's hard to spend time with yourself, So if it's hard to spend time with yourself, then it's going to be hard for other people to spend time with you too. Yeah. And it's going to be hard for you to spend time with them. And so, it's it has been a real practice in patience and forgiveness and therapy and all this stuff, just to make sure that we you don't want to just get by. You want to thrive, So it's, we've had to, you just have to, like, if you have kids, it's really important, I think, that you work on yourself. Because if you don't work on yourself, then you're going to infect the kids with whatever you were infected with from your folks, So having kids is this cool opportunity to, I don't know, sounds cheesy, but to sort of heal your whatever the trauma of your ancestors is. You can heal that a little bit, not all the way.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about at the Meet Delic conference, actually, in one of the talks, about like how our DNA kind of carries like 14 years of ancestry, and you really do have to do like the healing of all the trauma so that you don't pass it down in your DNA to your children, and that just makes so much sense. It
really does.
Yeah.
It seems unbelievable, but it makes so much sense. Like I'm sure a lot of the trauma that we all carry is just from our parents' trauma and their parents' trauma.
Yeah.
It's almost like see it so clearly. I can see myself whenever I'm in a state of fight or flight, or I get frustrated, I just turn into my mum straight away, and I'm like, no, I try really hard to.
We all just turn into our parents.
Yeah, I think
right.
At our worst times, but we just have to remember we're also taking the good parts of our parents as well.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah. That's it. And that's what's great, is once you start recognizing it wasn't all bad, there is good stuff there. And then you start also, there's something very liberating about realizing that, you know, you're not a bad person. You're just a person who learned a set of defense mechanisms from people who are terrified. I mean, you know, and freaked out, as a lot of parents are, you know, and so that's, for me, has been really liberating. And, you know, thus therapy. Therapy's great. So, you know, and having kids, it's given me the greatest reason ever to do that kind of work. Because
that's really beautiful.
Also, shout out to your mum. I mean, she was only on, was it 1 or 2 episodes of the Midnight Gospel? One episode. And I learned so much in just that short space of time. Like, I still think about the sentences she said, and it has really impacted my life and who I am. So, like, shout out to Mama.
Wherever you may be, to all the moms.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. That was such a good moment. I actually had a funny, I don't know if this is like a bad segue from that comment, but like, well, it's not, because it's about Midnight Gospel, but I had like a really funny experience whilst watching Midnight Gospel, because I got like, I don't really smoke that much weed, and I had this moment like where I was going through this breakup, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go get smoke and like really fucking chill out. But my friend was like, yeah, you should smoke pure, because that's like how I smoke, and it's like the best way to do it. I found some really cheap weed in Brighton, which is like a seaside town in the UK, and it was like £10 this weed. So cheap. And
what did you say?
A tenner.
£10.
£10. How much
you
was
bought
it?
10 pounds of Brighton weed?
Oh no, not the weight. Like the amount of money it costs.
Yeah. Oh my God! You are blowing my mind. Like, you're going out. Like, what were you carrying it in? Is it as a suitcase?
Oh my God, no.
No, 10 pounds of weed is
shitty
like,
weed.
Yeah, £10, probably like a tenner's worth is like a joint's worth.
Okay,
not even a joint.
I got you. I'm
like
so sorry. I get it now.
It was a small amount, but well, no, actually, it wasn't. I think I made like 3 joints on it. I don't know. Nice. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I smoked this weed in the garden, and first of all, it was amazing. I was eating this donut, and I was like, this donut is the best donut I've ever tasted in my whole life. Oh, wow. And suddenly I was like, you know what? I'm starting to feel a little bit too high. So like things started moving in a weird way. So I thought, you know, I'll lie on the grass, look up at the clouds. That's what people do when they're high, right? And so I did that, and then my face started expanding and melting all at the same time. And I was like, fuck, this sucks. This is horrible. So I was like going through in my mind about like what people do when they're high to try and like, I was like, how can I make this like a great experience? And what did I do? I was like, I'll put on the Midnight Gospel.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Cool.
Which was quite hard to follow, actually, at that point.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that was the right choice. Hot bath, maybe. A jog helps.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, people say I feel like people have said about Midnight Gospel that it's, you know, like all the animations and stuff, it is very psychedelic and it's very like of that world. So that's why I assumed that it would be a good viewing.
Well, I mean, we live, we learn, trial and error.
Yeah,
I mean, it still was a great viewing.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, the whole take a psychedelic and then watch a psychedelic thing, which I have tried many, many times throughout my life. And inevitably, there's some moment where I think I just should be outside or, you know, like I should be in a quiet place or something like that. But I don't think there's any right way or wrong way. In fact, I think the most important thing about psychedelics is to let yourself explore everything, just to see the differences. And I'm honored that you in that moment you picked the Midnight Gospel.
When you sit on somebody's face for them to eat you out, like how hard do you go? Do you like fully sit your weight, or do you actually just perch?
This is the thing. There's been like this huge internet debate over this topic in particular for ages, whether you just sort of hover or do you sit. And most people on the receiving end are saying, just fucking sit on my face. Well, luckily, there is actually some courses that you can do on all of these subjects, including the female orgasm, sensual vulva massages, and, of course, face sitting.
Now, we have been sponsored by Beducated, which has a whole vulva series of lessons, including these very topics, which we're very excited about.
Yeah. They're basically, Beducated is basically the Netflix of sexual wellness. They have it all. Basically, all the courses, all the things to learn about, and it's all to improve your love life.
Video, audio, written guides to help technique and performance. Especially if like written's not your thing, videos are, or maybe you just want to like listen to some lessons on the train. Imagine learning about like face sitting while you're on your train to work.
Now, that's pretty sexy.
And holy shit, Beducated is giving our listeners 70% off a yearly pass with our discount code, ComeCurious.
Ooh, so go to beducated.com and you can use our code ComeCurious. And you can try all the Beducated courses for free for one day. What? So that's beducated.com and the code ComeCurious.
Check them out. Holy shit.
You talk about psychedelics and drugs and stuff like that in a really amazing way, and I think in like a spiritual way, and you have a really great relationship with them. How has your experience been with sex and drugs?
Oh, I've had so many great experiences. Once, a long time ago, I took it was the best LSD I've ever had in my life, and had sex, and we were having sex, and it's the strangest experience. I mean, we've had a lot of weird drug experiences, but this one in particular was very odd in that I stopped being a person and became like a village, and was like simultaneously this village and these women going down to this river with clay pots and putting the water in the clay pots and bringing them up to the village. And I came 7 times, I think 7 times, like, which was insane. It didn't make any sense. For a guy,
that's like
impossible, seemingly impossible.
Are we talking about
how could that be happening?
Ejaculate, or are we talking like, like?
Well, I wasn't looking, at the time I was like, I wasn't like, hey, let me see if there's more cum coming out. I was very high. I wasn't measuring to see. My guess would be at some point that must have stopped.
Dried up. Yeah.
Like, how much can you have inside of you? I don't know. Yeah, but that was a really powerful, weird experience I think about from time to time. I think marijuana, the kind of sex you have is incredible. But with LSD, there's a potential there to sort of, I think maybe. Do you ever play around with the idea that the experience of the orgasm is not limited to the human body, to human biology, but in fact, that it's a sort of universal vibration, or a universal sort of experience that rivers are having and trees are having, and when the wind, that it's everywhere. And we just think that it's in us when we experience it. And obviously it is. I'm not saying that like there's some physiological component behind having an orgasm, but I wonder if there's something more. I wonder if we're tuning into something in those moments when you're having an orgasm, because it is literally the experience of human beings coming into this world. I mean, obviously not all the time. A lot of times it's like human beings coming into a napkin. That's amazing. You know what I mean.
I feel like Florence, like sometimes, like when we met up on Monday, and sometimes because Florence and I, we microdose shrooms. And we've been doing that now for a couple of months now, and it's been pretty amazing. And those days where we're like, I just took my shroom pill, and don't you feel like that overbearing sense of like love and excitement for the world? Maybe that's like a little joint orgasm that we're having or something. Yeah. Because we've had them at the same time. Like the first one, when you were at the festival, you tried a mushroom pill, and then I had my trip. Then the next day, it was like the next week, we were both like, oh my God, it almost felt like an orgasm of some kind. Just like, what the fuck? This world is just so incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you're out in nature and you just see everything, you're just like, wow, what is this place? Like, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, look at that caterpillar, like running across the path. Like, look at the trees, look at the sun. Like, I don't know.
So happy.
That's like that euphoria that you feel in orgasm.
It's an interesting thing to if you can, generally when you're having an orgasm, hopefully you're just having an orgasm, it's like you're not being some like orgasm scientist or something like that. I'm not recommending that. You're going to seem like a complete asshole if
I would like
you're doing that when you're having
science in your orgasm.
Let me take notes.
Please open wide.
I'm sure people have done that.
Well, they have. I mean, there's been a lot of studies on it for sure. I mean, just purely from the idea that, the sort of materialist idea that, the ideas we're just supposed to reproduce. That's the job. And humans invent all kinds of stories about what the mission is in life, to spread love or joy or help or get rich or whatever. But your DNA is just like, sure, whatever helps you sleep at night. The idea is to make more of us. That's it. Nothing else really matters. But from that perspective, if that is the primary motivation, in the sense that if people just stop having sex, there's no more humans, then the orgasm is really interesting in that it's like, nature's way of luring you into making more of you. So in that sense, there's something really cool. Just that alone, not any of the spiritual bullshit, but just that you are experiencing a kind of evolutionary like gravity well that pulls people in and makes more people. And when you're having an orgasm, think of like in that moment, how many millions of people are coming at the same time? Like at any given moment.
So you could just like clock into that like joint orgasm.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're coming with an entire spectrum of people, from like probably people in like temples doing some kind of tantric like sex work, all the way down to like the loneliest human on earth, just coming in their basement in a pile of garbage or something. Like animals, dogs, like like everything.
Oh my God, curious fuckers. We have been sponsored by our ultimate sponsor. What better than bed sheets for a podcast about fucking, where we're basically in bed most of the time?
I mean, we spend basically a third of our life in bed, maybe more for Florence and I because we fuck a lot. But we think it's really important to invest in your bed sheets and in your bedding. And of course, Cozy Earth is one that we can recommend and officially say have changed our lives for the comfier.
We have been like raving about our bamboo bed sheets to like everyone that will listen,
especially because they're not only sustainable, green earth, looking after our planet, but they're also just so damn comfy. Like the silkiness on your skin, the fact that you just don't sweat underneath them. They're really like body temperature regulating. I cannot.
Once you go bamboo, you won't go back.
I cannot go back to regular bed sheets after these.
No. And also, Cozy Earth is offering a 100-night trial as well. So if you don't love it, you can return it within 100 days for free, but you won't.
And of course, we have a special treat for our curious fuckers. A massive 40% off all Cozy Earth products. All of them.
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Just use the code GIVEN at the checkout. That's so good. We love Cozy Earth.
And their loungewear. You got to check that out too because it's comfy.
So go visit cozyearth.com and check out all the amazing bamboo bedding and loungewear and use the code GIVEN for 40% off.
That's Cozy Earth, COZY earth.com. Holy shit. So Duncan, please explain a little bit about your relationship with sex. Like what kind of sex education you had and what was your journey through until now?
Sex education?
Mm-hmm. If you had that.
Well, yeah. Okay, sure. That's a fun question. So, my mom was a psychologist. So, she started, and she was pragmatic about sex because she understood, that a teenager is probably going to have sex. Like that, if your plan with your teenager is to tell them not to have sex or ignore what's happening, then you could end up with a grandkid before you want one. So
yeah, basically.
So I can remember when I got into high school, my mom I came into my room and there was like a box of condoms that she left.
Brilliant.
We basically say, look, if you're gonna fuck, you gotta wear these. You know, and that's a smart thing to do, because I think when you're people that age, there's no chance that they're going to be able to control themselves enough to not like maybe get somebody pregnant. So I don't know if I would call my mom sex positive, like the term that people are using right now, but certainly not afraid of it, and definitely like made me not afraid of it, or helped me not have like a lot of the hangups I think that people have about it. As far as like sex education goes, you know, we have sex education here in school, but it's like very biological, and like they've really figured out a way to I mean, they have to. What are you going to do? Have like an erotic sex education class for kids in high school? You can't. That's fucked up. So they have to like completely sterilize it and turn it into some kind of incredibly boring thing. So as far as like my relationship with sex, I love sex. It's, you know, I think I've had it. It would be hard to imagine that I've only had like one kind of relationship with it, though. You know, I think it sort of changes over time, just depending on who your partner is or where you're at with your consciousness. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I've been through various phases.
How has it evolved? Like,
well, yeah. At some point, it went from. I think it's gotten increasingly less materialistic, if that makes sense. You know, less. I don't know how to put it. I don't want to sound like I'm virtue signaling. I mean, at some point, when you're okay. So this is the pattern that I've noticed in my own life. So it's like you have a partner, and you learn to have sex with that person, and it's wonderful. And then, inevitably, the relationship begins to disintegrate, because generally, unless you're going to get married and have kids, and even if you do get married and have kids, there's still the possibility of this disintegration. But generally, there's a kind of entropy that happens in relationships, even though you don't want to think about that in the beginning phase of the relationship. When you're looking at them, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be with you this is the most incredible sex I ever had in my life. Holy shit, we found each other. And then something starts happening. It takes a turn, gradually disintegrates, especially if you're not working on yourself, and especially if you're not like looking what's happening right in the eye. And then you break up. And then I've noticed whenever that has happened with me, then I go into like some kind of fuck period. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Where
the
you
hoe
break
phase.
Yeah. The hoe phase, right? Yes, the hoe phase. So I never called it that. So now all of a sudden you're like fucking all the time, and and you're hanging. And probably the people you're hooking up with are also in a hoe phase, you know. And so both of you are sort of on some level probably acknowledging like we're fucking right now, and it's fun, it's incredible, and but also it's so lonely and
there's isolating, like, and
it so is,
and so much shit sex is had, because you just keep going like onto the next one, onto something better, onto better, and you're wishing and waiting for something great to pop up, but it doesn't, because that takes time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, like the most amazing sex is when you have like a real connection with someone. So hoe phase sex is, it is kind of empty sometimes.
Serves a purpose, but
yeah, it serves a purpose, but there is this but that emptiness, when you don't resist it, and that's where you can really go into like hell, the movie Hellraiser, like that's where like you can go into like, you could become like a Cenobite or one of those like, a pinhead thing. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh yes,
they turn me on so much. They're like, I'll tear your soul apart. And they're like, it's just fucking mad.
Oh my God, I've never seen this.
It's a spooky film. You might not like it.
Yeah, that. Clive Barker was such a freak, man. And so, in those in those shadowy phases, there's something really, if you don't resist it, you can find this really beautiful place there that is, I wouldn't want to hang out there forever, but there's something real about it, and pure and incredible. And, and also because like I generally in those periods, it's not just like I'm in a hoe phase, as you put it, but usually I'm getting so high, and like I'm usually like just partying. And so sadly, this is, I think, is a sad reality of the hoe phase. I don't know about you, but when I look back and try to remember those moments, they're kind of foggy. There's like, it's like even the memories are shadowy or something. And so, yeah.
I feel like I'm going through a hoe phase at the moment because I went through a breakup like maybe 6 months ago. Okay. So I'm in that moment now. So I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah. Well, try. I mean, I don't know. Take notes. Have a little notebook next to your bed or something and write it down so you can remember. Because I think that there's a reason we don't remember those moments. There's something really incredible about it because there's a dreamlike quality to it. Also, if you find yourself in a hoe phase, then you probably have a little bit of a broken heart too.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it potentially like a protective measure that our brains do because we're maybe having sex for the wrong reasons, looking for intimacy or looking for something more, and we don't. So it's like a protective measure to be like, oh no, you didn't just fuck like 50 people. That's all a dream. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. It could be that you don't want to accept that you are that you're like that, or you have some ego fantasy that you're somehow like different than that, and also you're probably depending on how you were raised, you might really feel guilty about the fact that you're having sex all the time, and so I think a lot of people struggle with that too. So which again that goes back into like. I do think there's something to be said for really looking at those feelings that you're having that are where you're feeling guilty about sex or whatever, like really enjoying them or working with them, because there's something so cool about that. There's something so weirdly fun about feeling like ashamed about sex. It's like, it's cool. And you don't, and it really, depending on how your life unfolds, you never know. You don't know how many of those sex phases you're going to get, the hoe phase. So if you're in a hoe phase,
this is true,
enjoy it. Enjoy the hoe phase. Enjoy the shadows. Invite the Cenobites. I mean, obviously be safe. Don't open portals into hell that you can't close, but open a few hell portals.
I definitely relate to that because I think that once you do get into like a long committed relationship, part of you does miss that ability and like freedom that the hoe phase gives you to just kind of like really be your darkest self.
Oh yeah.
I think you're right about not hiding away from negative thoughts and feelings. I love feeling jealousy. It's a feeling I don't feel often, and so when I feel jealous, I'm like, what is going on? Let me unpack that. Why am I feeling jealous? What is that insecurity that I'm not that I haven't noticed or that's coming out? I think we should maybe be more honest about the negative feelings we have and like you said, embrace them, enjoy them, like the shame stuff, like us being so open about sex and masturbation and porn, and yet I still go and have a shame wank. I will still watch a bit of porn that I feel like maybe wasn't ethical enough, I didn't pay for, or maybe was just so extreme that I still haven't really let my brain accept and process as something that is okay to be into. And then I'd be like, oh my god, I hope no one looks at my history browser. Oh, I would die if I have my porn buddy. When I die, I need someone to come along and delete all my porn before my parents find it. All of that stuff. Especially me having just coming out about my tickle fetish that I've had all my life, and I have hidden it and been so shameful of it. Yet with what we do with ComeCurious, being like, own everything about you, and it's okay to be into these things, and then yet I'm still having to hide this huge part of me. And like, where does that come from? No one told me to feel shameful of that. I almost created that myself.
I mean, isn't that what's great about fetishes?
Yeah.
Like, do we really want to unshame our fetishes? Like, isn't that kind of part of what's cool about it? Is you're like, what's wrong with me?
I think it turns you on. It almost like turns you on more. Now I feel like I'm getting satisfied with my fetish. I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't really like look at porn about it anymore. Like I'm kind of just like, yeah, cool. I'm not there just like, oh my God, I'm losing my fucking mind. I need this so badly. It's like I have it there, and it's like maybe I wouldn't say as fun, but as powerful.
Yeah. We were talking
like
about
it
the other
though.
day.
I'm sorry to. I like the theory. The theory. So I think there's different types of shame. There's shame that is ruining your life, and there's shame that is like being disconnected from your true identity. And it's like if it's like, you know, when you twist a garden hose, you're doing that to your entire energetic system. All this energy being put into denying or ignoring some aspect of yourself, whatever it may be. And so that's bad. That's bad. Like that. And I think that's bad in the sense of, you know, like what you're saying, you're not getting to really be your true self. And so you're living in the world in a kind of scared way. But then there's like other kinds of shame, like what you're talking about, where you're like, what the fuck did I just look at on my phone? Like, what did I just do? You're like, you know, you're coming down from your orgasm and just thinking like, wow, that was fucking crazy.
That was fucked up.
That's where I'm at now. And so to me, there's something fun. There's something fun about that, you know. Yeah. So I know what you mean, but yeah, it's I get the. If you need to come out of the closet, you should come out of the closet. But maybe there's something fun about having like a few like shadowy crevices that you like to hang out in. Those are cool too. And also, I've noticed my shadowy crevices change over time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes people, they get too attached to their fetishes. You know what I mean? I think fetishes can be replaced, or even you can infect yourself with a new fetish if you want to.
I would argue that kinks can be replaced, but a fetish can't. Just because of what a fetish is, the psychological, like a fetish is generally part of your identity, but a kink, I think that can change. And
but let's talk about identity for a second, because that is changeable, isn't it? Like if the identity is malleable, the identity isn't constant, the identity isn't lasting, and certainly the identity, if it is the sum total of all your habits and your personality traits and all of your experiences and memories, then this is a thing that isn't really solid at all. That is, every new experience could change your identity, and even
so true.
So in that sense, I think, well, maybe you could say fetishes are sort of more hardwired into you than other things. But and I'm not suggesting that you should unravel your fetishes, and in fact I would say don't. Like,
why?
They're awesome. Are you fucking kidding? It's like a sexual superpower. You know what I mean?
It turns you on. Like how are you ever gonna get that turned on? If you sort all that shit out, how are you gonna feel that horny?
That's what I mean. I feel like me finally coming out about this, like I have now hit my full sexual whole self, especially because sex is so different from person to person. Some people could take it or leave it. Other people, it's their whole lives. And so for this fetish to be the main thing that turns me on, the main thing that makes me orgasm and enjoy pleasure, and then not being able to talk to anyone about it for the majority of my life, and now being able to, now jumping that gun, I feel like I have finally reached my, I don't want to say sexual peak, because I know it's just going to get better, but I feel like I never knew. Yeah, it could be. That's it. I'm done. I'm washed up now. I'm gone. But I finally met my full satisfied self, a person I never thought I could get to, or be.
Yeah.
And like now that there's endless possibilities of how far it can go, especially when sex is like a huge part of my life. Again, my identity, it's my career, it's our jobs, it's everything we think about. And I feel like, that I needed to be honest and open about that. Otherwise, it was going to eat me up inside.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. I mean, that is, I think, one of the real peculiar qualities of sex. It's like, here you have this thing that is, it's the force of human existence in the universe. It's the progenitor. It's what makes us, obviously. Mm-hmm. And yet, maybe it's because it's too powerful or something, and that's why. Maybe there's a sense of like it feels dangerous or something. I love thinking about that, though. Like how much of like feeling weird about sex or awkward about sex or cringy about sex or just generally like, well, that's not what we talk about.
Yeah.
How much of that is that a genetic trait? Clearly not, because in many cultures it's like it's almost the opposite.
Yeah,
it's such a normal thing. They don't not even celebrate it, just like drinking water or something, no big deal. Like, don't you get the sense that a byproduct of what happened in human history, where all these various forms of like repressive religions were practiced, that what it did was open up a world of fetishes and a world of shadows and a world of
That's so true.
Would Cenobites exist without the Catholic Church?
No.
Would they exist? Would any of this stuff be like a mode of expression if there wasn't some force attempting to repress it in the most horrific way?
I think you're right. I think sex is too powerful of a tool for, like, that's why we have been pushed down, and like there has been, it's such stigma, shame, taboo like put around it, because if we were all so in touch with our sexual identity, then we'd all be like these really like powerful, confident beings, and that's too much for like capitalism. Like they're like, capitalism like wouldn't work, like the way we want to rule the world wouldn't work if people were all these like really powerful beings.
Yeah. I think so. I think it, like any sort of, it's one of the ways to control people, isn't it? Give them a sense that they have secrets that they can't talk about. Give them a sense that there's something hidden in them that, you can see. And then you can control them, blackmail them, and emotionally manipulate them if you want to, by just some sense that you're going to, like, disclose their secrets, or they even, or you're the only one who understands it. It's really fucked up. Yeah. That aspect of sex. I mean, that's the other really fucked up thing about sex, isn't it? Is that it people, really can use it as a tool of control, of mind control.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I have to ask you, okay, this may be jumping into the future, but what are cryptic erotic stories?
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. Oh my God, that's so cool. Yes. So I have a Patreon where fans of the podcast hang out, and we are. I realized like we should just collaborate because we hang out a few times a week, and they're also brilliant. So we have written a book of cryptid, which is like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster. Probably say Santa Claus, like any kind of mythological creature. We've written a book of erotic short stories,
I love this.
And it's these, I was really like blown away because they're really good writers. So
are you publishing?
Yeah, we're publishing it. And we're going to give all the money, all the proceeds are going to a charity. We're going to vote on that soon.
Oh, amazing.
My wife and I were driving home from a trip, and I'm like looking through, I don't remember how I discovered it. I found a series of books called Come for Bigfoot that were...
Wait, what?
massively successful, and it's basically it's bondage porn where Bigfoot is kidnapping women in the forest and taking them back to some cabin and just fucking them and
this sounds like my dream.
This is what I was just thinking. Reed with her foot fetish and her bondage fetish.
Oh my god!
Oh, you will love it.
Bigfoot in my face while I'm tired. Oh my god! Perfect.
You're gonna love. And that was the funny part. My wife and I were listening to it because it's sarcastically. We're like, come on, this is come for Bigfoot. Let's listen to this bullshit. So we're listening to it, and then somewhere in it, we're looking at each other like, "Are we getting we're getting turned on right now?" Like what? And like it's embarrassing because it's the dumbest shit you've ever heard, and especially whichever one we read, like I think the only thing Bigfoot says in it is "come." But I swear, but whoever's reading it makes Bigfoot's voice. Bigfoot should be like "come."
So this is an audio book. You're listening to this.
Well, we already listened to it. There's I think 10 come for Bigfoots. I can look it up.
Wow.
If you want.
I need a link immediately, please.
But that inspired.
So is it basically audio porn?
Well, it's a book. I mean, it's audio porn. Literature. It is audio porn. But you can also get the book, too. Come for Bigfoot Volume 1, Books 1 through 5. Let's see. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, the covers are just... It's Virginia Wade. Mm-hmm. You should have her on the show, actually. She seems really cool and smart.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're just called Come for Bigfoot. You know, I'll read you a description of one.
Yes.
This is Come for Bigfoot Volume 2. Books 6 through 10. Kidnapped by horny ape-like creatures in Mount Hood National Forest, Porsche, Shelley, and Leslie find themselves in a lusty situation as a tribe of Bigfoots use their willing, nubile bodies to satisfy their monster cocks. How can Porsche leave all of this behind and return to civilization? When she's in the arms of her Sasquatch, warm and snuggly in his matted fur, the only thoughts going through her mind are of utter bliss. But challenges abound for the star-crossed lovers, including Leonard's head injury. I think that's the name of Bigfoot is Leonard. Leonard's head injury, a devastating wildfire, and a sexy forest ranger named Mike. Will these obstacles shatter the growing love between an ape and its mate, or will true love triumph?
Oh, this is beautiful. I love this. I mean, I love monster erotica and porn anyway. I just don't think we have enough of it. But this just sounds magical.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
What are the what are your like most favorite cryptic?
Cryptids.
Cryptids.
It sounds like cryptic.
Oh, is it not cryptic? Have I?
It's cryptid.
Cryptids.
Cryptid.
Yeah, cryptids.
Oh, what is your favorite cryptid story that someone's written about? Like, which mystic animal or creature?
Well, I haven't honestly read all of them because the book's over 100 pages. But we did read some during our gatherings, and I'm not going to pick favorites, but the one that sticks into my mind right now is a short story about a guy trying to commit suicide by jerking off.
What?
Wait, he's going to come himself to death or something? And then somewhere in there, I believe there's an encounter with Satan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Satan does count as a cryptid for sure.
Fuck. That sounds. These just sound incredible.
That's pretty dark and sad, to be honest.
That is so bad.
That's a horrible, worst way I've ever heard of committing suicide.
Yeah.
The worst way.
Yeah. How would that even work?
I mean, you'd have to wank your dick off and bleed to death, surely. Like, how else?
Well, I have heard of a form of epilepsy where you come so much you can die. Like you go and like you just it's like a never-ending orgasm. It's a seizure that manifests as an orgasm, and it can kill you, or it can like I don't know if that's true though. It's been a while since I looked into that.
I've heard of that before.
I have heard about people not being able to stop coming when suddenly they start coming, and we've seen shows of it, and people are so full of shame because they're literally like hanging out with their kids, and then they like come and they're like, oh god.
Is that weird? Like, people are ashamed of coming. Like, you could sneeze. These motherfuckers, especially these days, sneezes are so loud these days. You will hear a sneeze from a block away, and everyone's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Don't sneeze
or
in
a cough.
public.
Yeah.
Free sneezers, free coughers. But if we, like, ejaculated or had orgasms like we sneeze, you're right. Like, if people would try to hide it, it's so funny. That should be celebrated.
Yeah. So before we do have to wrap this up, which I don't want to at all, I feel like I could talk to you absolutely all day.
Thank you.
Would love to ask you your fuck off story.
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay, so after my mom passed away, I was like, you know, like in just, I don't know what you even would call it, like grief shock or something.
Yeah.
And, you know, even there's a lot of ways that grief manifests. And I think that some of them get talked about more than others. But one of the ways grief can show up is like just this, you can become insanely horny. And
wow.
Incredible. What the fuck?
Yeah. And you know, well, what I think the reason is because you're in so much pain that you're just looking for any distraction.
Escapism.
Yes, right. And so you know, this is why there's so many avenues people take to try to do something about feeling
well, pleasure's the opposite of pain as well, so it kind of makes sense. It's like literally giving yourself the antidote to the pain.
Is that why we turn into like fucking rabbits after we've had a breakup because we are in pain and we're like, I just want to fuck myself through this?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's a grief. I think some of that's a grief response, and maybe that, and you just over time you realize that it's not. It's like throwing a cup of water on a wildfire or something. But try. You never know. It's worth it. I mean, I think again, this is like if you do find yourself in one of these. What'd you call it? A hoe phase?
Hoe phase.
If you do find yourself in a hoe phase, you really should like. I think it's important to understand that they don't last. So enjoy it while you're there. But this was, I wouldn't call it a hoe phase, but I was in a hotel room, downtown LA, completely depressed and completely horny. And so I was going on, it's a fetish website called FetLife.
Yes.
And I'm sort of digging through it because I'm so horny and I want a dominatrix. I want someone to like beat the shit out of me.
Nice.
Wow.
And so I, or at least like hurt me a little bit.
Just a little
so bit. I find this dominatrix, and you know, I've had a myriad of weird, I've tried so many strange forms of sex. And, you know, obviously with BDSM, it's like there's a million versions of it, millions, trillions. That's one of the beautiful things about it is the many modes of expression within it. But I'd never had a professional dominatrix. I had one on my podcast once who whipped me on the podcast, but
what?
It wasn't that great. She's awesome, but because it was, you know, I think if you're really, I mean, I don't know, everyone's different. I don't have like an exhibitionist thing. I don't like fucking in public. Some people do. I can't get into that, man. It feels like I don't want someone non-consensually to see my hairy ass like sticking out of a dressing room or something. It just seems rude. But this dominatrix came up to my hotel room. And, you know, I was like, again, like, I think I'd really been imagining that I would be able to achieve that kind of thing that you can have with someone that you love when you're having sex with a stranger. And because I'd never done it before. So and it was actually a kind of experiment, you know, like, let's see. I was thinking, holy shit, if this works, wow, this will be incredible. Like it's going to save so much energy. But in the sense of like dating, and so anyway,
dating is
makes me take all my clothes off, puts a dog collar on me, and is whipping me and pulling me around the room, pulls me onto the bed, and then my face is in her ass, and I'm just like, it's just dawning on me that this isn't working. This isn't really working. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm not enjoying. I'm like trying to be. What's really weird, I think, I'm a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of trying to be polite. You know, even though like I'm kind of thinking like abort this mission. This is not. This isn't really solving anything. And but she was like whipping. She's like whipping my cock.
Ooh.
And it made me come.
Oh wow!
Oh, nice.
That's a pretty amazing realization.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that. I knew. I know. That honestly didn't shock me. Well, the part that was like a bummer, I think, for both of us was that. I mean, I don't know for her. Maybe it's just her job, or I don't know. But like, so like after I come, and I'm just like, I didn't say, I mean, I wasn't complaining. I was trying to be, this person is like giving like themselves to me in this bizarre way. So I felt really a lot of gratitude. I think her name was Raven. I can't remember, but she wanted me to like wash off the sex toys that she'd used, the whip and a few other things. She was still trying to be a dominatrix after I came. And like, I'm just like, I just want her to, I want her to go away so I could just cry and drink, and like, I'm like, and I think I was rude. I'm trying to, I was like, I don't really think I want to clean them off. I don't think that's, because in my mind, I'm like, isn't that kind of your job? I'm paying you for this. Like, what? I have to do the clean. It's like, isn't that kind of similar to like asking someone to go wash their dishes at a restaurant or something like that? Like.
Shit. I mean, you are the submissive. I guess that's her rules. Fuck.
Well, no, I think in her mind, thinking of me as a typical submissive. She was imagining that I would enjoy that.
Yes.
So it was probably a little bit of generosity on her part, an added bonus. You get to go clean this your fucking cummy whip. And so I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. And she goes and she's like, gathers her things. And as she's walking out, she's like, she said some, I can't remember the exact words, but it really hurt my feelings. And she's walking out, she's like, something like, I don't think you're really kinky. And then she leaves. And I'm like, well, that hurts way worse than the whip on my cock. That you should say that to me as you're like a mic drop moment. As she's leaving.
She was well butthurt, obviously, that you weren't going full mode. That's so not fair.
And you know what though? I don't think I should have. What are you gonna do though with a dominatrix that you just summoned from Fat Life? What are you gonna do? Look. My mom died a few months ago, and I'm trying to use sex as a way to avoid this sort of like horrible, empty void that I'm just now beginning to make sense of. So I don't want to wipe the sex toys down. They don't want to hear that shit. They've got to go to some other person and whip them. They're probably busy,
You know what though? Like I feel like because I've spoken to a lot of dominatrixes in my time, and I feel like a lot of them talk about what they do being a type of therapy, and I think in a lot of circumstances they probably would listen.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I think you're absolutely right. And for me, I think you're a lot of the dominatrixes I know. I mean, I think that's one of the cool discoveries people make if they decide to try that out. Is that there's an interesting a masseuse, right? A masseuse has like a lot of cool ways of applying pressure to you to make you feel better. And a great dominatrix is like an expert at dialing in specific sensations that are a lot of people consider to be something you should avoid. But if you're with a really talented dominatrix, then it will definitely cause you to revise your understanding of pain itself and what pain really is. And but But yeah, I just wasn't in a state of mind to really go deep with anybody, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
It's hard being a dominatrix. Like, nobody teaches you how. You just go off by what you see in porn and what you see in the media and in films. I've done a couple dominatrix sessions myself, and again, only because of doing ComeCurious, this podcast, was I able to be like, okay, well, what are you into? What don't you like? And really get it all out there before assuming that I'm going to take on this really fucking like harsh, I'm the boss, you have to do what I say no matter what it is kind of role. And I've done that as well in sessions before where I have just gone, okay, I'm going to play the dominatrix and not really listen to the client. But instead, it is about listening. Everyone is so different, and you can't assume just because you're the mistress and you make the rules in that moment that you make the rules for the whole thing. You know, you need to ask people what they're into, what their likes are and dislikes, because someone might want a mistress that's very like mummy and caring and looking after, but no, I have a firm hand and you will suck my tit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it might just be stereotypical, I'm going to dress in latex and then I'm going to whip your cock kind of thing. It's so different, but I don't think enough sex workers really think about that and really learn. They just play a character, and that doesn't work for everyone.
She interviewed me before. We had a margarita, and I kind of explained what I thought would be fun, but she started like saying shitty things to me, and I was like, I don't really. That's not my thing. I don't like to don't yell at me.
The humiliation thing.
Don't insult me in my own hotel room, please. I don't like that. I just want you to whip me, not call me shitty things.
I love that. I love this story though, because I think it's a really, it was a nice moment, like in that really vulnerable space that you were in, where you can have this kind of like sexual situation, sexual relationship, and kind of like learn something about yourself through it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I'm so glad I did it. I mean, that's the other thing is like, if you have any inkling of like that you might be into something that is generally considered like non-traditional sex, if there's some like curiosity you have, you should definitely try it.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing that can happen is you find out, that is, you like it, and if you find out that it isn't quite what you were into, then that teaches you something too,
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Sex tips with Duncan Trussell, everyone.
Depending on the thing. Like, if you're curious if setting yourself on fire is going to make you, don't do that. I mean, like, within reason, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Be careful.
Wow. This has been so amazing having you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Literally a bit of a dream come true moment for us, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's great meeting you, and I really am. I feel lucky that I got to spend some time with y'all. Thank you for having me.
Keep creating all the amazing stuff you are, and keep teaching the world, because you have a very good view of things. Just thank you. Where can our curious fuckers find you? Like, dish us all the deets.
The best way is my podcast, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, and that's at my website, DuncanTrussell.com.
Yeah. Do you know the acronyms for that is down to fuck?
Yeah, that was completely unintentional.
Love.
But yeah, it did end up accidentally being that. Truly, I wasn't like trying to find a way to secretly say down to fuck, but it turned out that I don't mind.
I'm going to make a podcast to put out a message.
That I secretly down to fuck.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Holy shit. Whoa.
How did that just happen?
I don't know. I feel like I'm dreaming.
I know. I was in like dream state during that whole thing, just being like, we're having a Duncan Trussell conversation with the Duncan Trussell.
With somebody that we've followed for a long time, that says like really profound shit that's helped us both with our own therapy and minds. Like, incredible. So that was an absolute treat. We can't believe he was like, yeah, okay, I'll come on the pod. It's like,
I mean, I feel like we should feel super grateful for everyone that's really supported us for this long with Fucks Given and is here listening, because you guys are the reason that we're able to interview someone like Duncan Trussell.
Thank you so much. We love you all. every single one of your ear holes.
And I hope that you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, obviously share it with everyone.
Please. And not just like share it and send a link. Like put it on your stories, put it on Twitter, put it like scream it from the rooftops, because that's the thing that actually helps grow the podcast. And who knows, in the future, we could be doing live shows just because you've helped us grow the pod.
Exactly. That's the dream. Getting out there. And you all being in our live audience.
Yeah, lots of dream talk this episode, you know. Yeah. Speaking of dreams, if you like this episode, please like... You like that?
Yeah.
Please like this episode.
Also, you can find us on our Instagram at ComeCurious, where we have all the latest podcast shenanigans popping up on there. We got Q&As happening and like, you know, so you need to be on there just in case we're asking you for something that we're going to bring on to Fucksgiven.
Yeah, baby. If you want to keep up with our personal stuff as well, please follow us on Read Amber X and Florence Bark. And yeah, I mean... We'll fucking see you next Thursday if you're not watching us on the YouTube channel. Also, if you're listening to us, you can watch our faces do the thing and actually see what Duncan Trussell looks like. So please go do that.
I actually didn't know what he looked like for a really long time. I think maybe at that psychedelics conference, that was the first time I saw him and I was like, oh my God, that's the guy with the voice.
Yeah, with the voice. He does the thing with the stuff. Yeah. I'm sure people that have always listened to our podcast as well have no idea what we look like. There will be people out there, so come on YouTube, see what we look like, see what we're doing.
But anyway, see you next Thursday. I nearly said see you next Tuesday then. See you next Thursday, Curious Fuckers.
Love you all. Bye.